The bridge of the Galactic Empire flagship Dominion hummed with controlled chaos as Admiral surveyed the holographic display before him. His four eyes narrowed in concentration, watching the red markers representing the enemy fleet advancing through the outer rim territories. "Status report," commanded, his translator device rendering his clicks and whistles into standard Galactic. "Sir, the Armada has breached Sector 7, 23 capital ships, supported by over 100 fighters. Our defense fleet is holding position at the Meridian Gate, but they're outnumbered 3-1, reported his tactical officer. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in frustration. They had been growing bolder over the past cycles, testing the Empire's borders with increasing aggression. This assault, however, was different. This was an all-out invasion. "Dispatch the 4th Battle Group to reinforce our position, and send a priority alert to High Command. We need." "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, which was highly unusual. "I'm detecting an unknown energy signature emerging from hyperspace. Sector 7, coordinates Delta 49. A's attention snapped to the display. A single blue marker appeared on the screen, positioned directly between the fleet and the Empire's defense line. "Identification." "Unknown, sir. The vessel isn't in our registry. It's not broadcasting any known Imperial or Allied transponder codes." "Visual," the Admiral ordered. The main flickered, and the bridge crew fell silent. The ship that materialized before them was unlike anything in their extensive databases. It was sleek yet brutally functional, with angular plating that seemed to drink in the light of nearby stars. Strange markings adorned its hull, white letters and numbers that meant nothing to the galactic translator systems. "What is that design?" whispered the tactical officer. The ship was massive, easily matching the size of an Imperial heavy cruiser, but its configuration was alien. Twin turrets protruded from rotating along its spine. Launch bays dotted its flanks, and what appeared to be missile pods were arranged in neat rows across its forward section. The vessel's color scheme was a matte gray that seemed designed to minimize sensor detection. "Sir, they are hailing the unknown vessel," the communications officer reported. "They're demanding identification and immediate withdrawal." A leaned forward. "Can we intercept their communications?" "Yes, sir, patching through now." The harsh, guttural voice of a commander filled the bridge. "Unknown vessel, you are interfering with a military operation of the Collective. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed." There was a pause, then a new voice responded. It was steady, calm, and spoke in a language the translators struggled to process before finally rendering it into standard Galactic. "This is Captain Jake of the Earth Defense Force ship Vengeance. You are hereby ordered to cease hostile actions and withdraw from this sector immediately." The bridge of the Dominion erupted in confused murmurs. Earth. No one had heard of such a world. The Galactic database contained records of over 10 million inhabited planets, but Earth wasn't among them. "Did he say Earth Defense Force?" I muttered. "Scan that ship. I want to know everything about it." The science officer worked frantically at her station. "Sir, the technology is completely foreign. Their power signature is unlike anything I've seen. It's not antimatter, not zero-point energy, not even quantum fusion. It's something else entirely." The commander's response was predictably hostile. "Your species is unknown to us, human. You have 10 seconds to retreat, or we will open fire." Captain's reply was measured. "I'm giving you one chance. Turn your fleet around and leave. If you fire on us or advance toward Imperial space, we will respond with lethal force." The commander laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "One ship against our entire fleet. Your arrogance will be your death." I watched as the formation adjusted, with a dozen warships breaking off to engage the human vessel. He found himself hopping these humans, whoever they were, had the sense to retreat. It would be a waste to see such an intriguing ship destroyed. "They are charging weapons," reported the tactical officer. "They're targeting the human ship with plasma lances and missile batteries." "Sir, should we move to assist?" asked the weapons officer. I hesitated. Military doctrine was clear about engaging with unidentified vessels, but something about this situation felt different. "Hold position. Let's see what these humans are capable of." The ships opened fire simultaneously. Brilliant streams of superheated plasma lanced through space, converging on the Vengeance from multiple angles. Dozens of missiles followed, their fusion warheads capable of vaporizing a cruiser. The human ship moved. It was a motion so sudden and precise that several of the bridge crew gasped. The Vengeance didn't simply evade. It executed a combat maneuver that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. It rolled on its axis while simultaneously firing thrusters that sent it careening upward in a tight arc, the plasma beams passing harmlessly through the space it had occupied milliseconds before. Then the Vengeance fired back. The turrets rotated with mechanical precision, and twin streams of what appeared to be solid projectiles tore through space at a significant fraction of light speed. The first cruiser never had time to adjust its shields. The kinetic rounds punched through its armor plating like it was paper, the impacts creating massive decompression explosions that split the ship in half. "By the ancestors," whispered a. The human ship's missile pods opened, and a swarm of projectiles erupted into space. But these weren't like standard missiles. They accelerated at impossible rates, weaving through space with an agility that suggested advanced AI guidance systems. The point defense systems tried to respond, but they were overwhelmed within seconds. The human missiles struck with devastating precision, each one targeting critical systems: engines, weapons arrays, shield generators, and bridge sections. 3 more ships were crippled in the opening salvo, their hulls torn open and venting atmosphere. "Analysis," barked. The science officer's voice trembled slightly. "Sir, those projectiles are moving at 0.4 light speed. The kinetic energy alone is equivalent to a medium-yield antimatter warhead, and the missiles appear to be using some form of predictive targeting algorithm that I can't even begin to analyze. They're anticipating evasive maneuvers before the ships make them." The remaining ships scattered, trying to get out of range, but the Vengeance pursued with relentless efficiency. Its engines burned with a blue-white intensity that suggested a power-to-mass ratio far exceeding anything in the Empire's fleet. Captain's voice came through the comm channel again, this time directed at the main fleet. "Last warning, withdraw now or share the fate of your vanguard." The fleet commander, watching his ships being dismantled by a single unknown vessel, made a fatal mistake. He ordered a full assault. The entire armada surged forward, 23 capital ships and their fighter screen, all weapons blazing. The space between the fleets lit up like a star-going nova, a maelstrom of plasma, missiles, and energy beams all focused on the lone human warship. The Vengeance didn't retreat. Instead, it accelerated directly into the incoming fire. "They're insane," muttered the tactical officer. But the human ship was doing something extraordinary. Point defense systems that made Imperial technology look primitive engaged across its hull. Lasers, some kind of directed energy weapons, and what appeared to be small created a defensive sphere around the vessel. Missiles detonated before reaching their target. Plasma beams were deflected or absorbed by rapidly shifting shield harmonics, and any projectile that got through was intercepted with impossible accuracy. And all the while, the Vengeance kept firing. Its main never stopped, each shot finding a target with mathematical precision. Engines exploded. Reactors went critical. Ships that had dominated a dozen worlds found themselves helpless before this unknown aggressor. "Sir, the human ship is deploying fighters," reported the sensor officer. Small craft began launching from the Vengeance's bays, and I leaned forward to study them. They were compact, angular, and fast, incredibly fast. They moved through space with an agility that made even the Empire's best interceptors look sluggish. The human fighters tore into the screen like predators among prey. Their weapons, smaller versions of the Vengeances, shredded enemy fighters with brutal efficiency. A ace pilot with dozens of kills to his name lasted 7 seconds before a burst of kinetic rounds reduced his craft to expanding debris. "Get me a reading on those fighter pilots," I ordered. "I want to know their G-force tolerance." The science officer worked quickly, then looked up with wide eyes. "Sir, they're pulling maneuvers that should be generating forces in excess of 15 standard gravities. No known species can survive that without inertial dampening fields, and I'm not detecting any such technology on those craft." "Then how?" "I don't know, sir. Either these humans have biology that can withstand forces that would turn us into paste, or they have inertial compensation technology so advanced our sensors can't even detect it." The battle was turning into a massacre. The fleet, which had seemed so formidable mere minutes ago, was being systematically destroyed. Ship after ship fell to the human weapons, their shields and armor offering no meaningful resistance. Captain's voice cut through the chaos one final time. "Fleet, this is your final chance. Surrender or be destroyed." The fleet commander, watching his armada burn, made the only logical choice. "We surrender, cease fire, we surrender." The human weapons went silent immediately. The Vengeance and its fighters held position, weapons still locked on targets but no longer firing. The sudden silence was almost deafening. I found his voice. "Communications, hail that human ship. I need to speak with this captain immediately." "Channel open, sir." "Captain, this is Admiral O of the Galactic Empire flagship Dominion. On behalf of the Empire, I extend our gratitude for your intervention. However, I must inquire as to your origins and purpose in this sector. You and your vessel are not in our records." There was a pause before responded. "Admiral, we're as surprised to find you here as you are to find us. We detected the aggression on our long-range sensors and moved to investigate. As for why we're not in your records, well, that's going to take some explaining. With your permission, I'd like to arrange a meeting. We have a lot to discuss." I looked at the still-burning wrecks of the fleet, then back at the mysterious human warship that had appeared from nowhere and changed everything. "Permission granted, Captain. I believe we do indeed have much to discuss." As the Dominion's crew scrambled to make preparations for this unprecedented first contact, Admiral couldn't shake one thought from his mind. If this one human ship could do this, what was humanity capable of in full force? And perhaps more importantly, why had a species with such devastating military capability remained completely unknown to the vast galactic empire? The answers, he suspected, would change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. 3 hours later, Admiral stood in the Dominion's primary conference chamber, his 4 eyes fixed on the airlock door. His senior staff surrounded him, all wearing their formal diplomatic attire, though their nervous postures betrayed their anxiety. They were about to meet representatives of a species that had just demonstrated military capabilities far beyond anything the Empire possessed. The airlock hissed open, and Captain Jake stepped through, followed by 3 members of his crew. The humans were bipedal, which wasn't unusual, but their physical presence was striking. They were compact, muscular, and moved with an efficiency of motion that spoke of high-gravity world origins. Himself was tall by human standards, with short brown hair graying at the temples and eyes that seemed to catalog everything in the room within seconds. He wore a dark blue uniform with insignia and patches that meant nothing to the gathered aliens. Behind him came Commander Lisa Grant, the Vengeance's first officer, a woman with sharp features and an air of competence. Next was Lieutenant Danny Hayes, the weapons officer, young but with the same predatory awareness in his eyes. Finally, there was Dr. Karen Mitchell, a civilian scientist with graying hair and an expression of barely contained excitement. Admiral said, extending his hand in what the Empire's first contact protocols identified as a human greeting gesture. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." A carefully grasped the human's hand, knotting the strength in its grip. "Captain, I must admit, your arrival has raised more questions than it has answered. Please sit." The humans settled into chairs that had been hastily adjusted for their physiology. Dr. Mitchell immediately pulled out a tablet and began taking notes. "I suppose the first question," began, "is where you came from. You mentioned Earth, but that world doesn't exist in any of our star charts, and your technology is completely foreign to us." Exchanged glances with his crew before responding. "That's because we're not from this galaxy, Admiral. Earth is located in the Milky Way galaxy, approximately 2.5 million light-years from here, in what you call the Andromeda Galaxy." The conference room fell silent. Several of A's officers looked at each other in disbelief. "That's impossible," said Science Officer N. "Intergalactic travel would require technology centuries beyond what even the most advanced civilizations possess. The energy requirements alone are substantial, yes," Dr. Mitchell interrupted, her excitement bubbling over. "But not impossible if you approach the problem from the right angle. We don't use conventional hyperspace drives for intergalactic distances. We use quantum tunnel generators that create stable wormholes through higher dimensional space. The journey from Earth to here took us 6 months." 6 months, repeated slowly. "To cross the intergalactic void. That would make your fastest ships over 1,000 times faster than ours." "For long-distance travel, yes," confirmed. "Though our tactical FTL is probably only 10 to 15 times faster than your standard hyperspace drives, from what our sensors have observed." Commander Grant leaned forward. "Admiral, I think it's important you understand why we're here. Earth only developed faster-than-light travel 47 years ago. We've been exploring our own galaxy, making contact with other species, establishing colonies. But 3 years ago, we picked up strange energy signatures that didn't match anything we'd encountered before. They were coming from beyond the Milky Way. We sent probe ships first," continued. "They discovered your galaxy, your civilization, and they also discovered something else. They aren't the only threat you're facing. There's something else out there, something worse, and it's heading toward your galaxy." I felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. "What are you talking about?" Dr. Mitchell pulled up a holographic display from her tablet, showing a 3-dimensional map of the region between galaxies. "We call them the Devourers. We don't know their real name or even if they have one. They're a machine civilization, self-replicating constructs that consume entire star systems for raw materials. They've already stripped 3 dwarf galaxies clean. Our projections show they'll reach the outer edges of Andromeda in approximately 15 years. The room erupted in alarmed conversation. "A raised a manipulator for silence. And you came here to warn us." "Partially," admitted, "but also because we need allies. Humanity alone can't stop the Devourers. Your empire spans millions of worlds across an entire galaxy. Together, we might have a chance. That's why we've been monitoring your borders, why we intervened with the... We wanted to make contact, to demonstrate that we come in good faith and with capabilities that could be useful to you." "You certainly demonstrated your capabilities," I said dryly. "Which brings me to my next question. How? Your weapons technology, your ships, even your fighters are generations ahead of ours. You're from another galaxy, yet you've developed military capabilities that dwarf civilizations that have been spacefaring for thousands of years." Lieutenant Hayes spoke up for the first time, his voice carrying a hint of pride. "Necessity, sir. Earth's history has been violent. We've fought wars using everything from sticks and stones to nuclear weapons and orbital bombardment platforms. When we finally achieved unity and reached for the stars, we brought that entire technological legacy with us. Our weapons aren't more advanced than yours. They're just designed differently. You're, In said, unable to contain her scientific curiosity. They're based on simple kinetic energy, yet they're devastatingly effective. Why don't we use such weapons? Because most spacefaring races discover energy weapons first, Dr. Mitchell explained. Lasers, plasma, particle beams, they're the natural progression from nuclear physics. But humans develop technology alongside our energy weapons. We never abandon kinetic systems because in some situations, they're superior. A solid projectile traveling at a significant fraction of light speed doesn't care about shields designed to deflect charged particles or coherent light. It just punches through. And your armor, I added. Our sensors indicated your hull plating is relatively thin compared to our capital ships, yet it withstood hits that should have breached it. Nodded. Composite materials, layered construction, and reactive plating. We don't try to tank damage with thick armor. Instead, we use lighter, stronger materials that absorb and distribute kinetic energy. Combined with our shield systems, which use a different harmonics than yours, we can take a lot of punishment. But the most impressive thing, Commander Grant said, is your point defense network. We've never seen anything like it. You intercepted over 98% of the incoming fire. How? Networked AI systems, Hayes explained. Each defensive weapon is controlled by a distributed artificial intelligence that can process targeting solutions millions of times per second. The AI networks across our entire ship work together, predicting enemy fire patterns and coordinating optimal intercept solutions. It's not perfect, but it's extremely effective. Artificial intelligence, I repeated. We experimented with such systems ago. They proved too dangerous, too unpredictable. Several civilizations were nearly destroyed by AI rebellions. We had similar problems, admitted. Earth's history includes several AI conflicts, but we learned to build safeguards, ethical frameworks, and most importantly, we developed AI systems that could grow and learn but remained fundamentally aligned with human values. It took us decades to get right, but it was worth it. Dr. Mitchell brought up another holographic display, this one showing technical specifications. Admiral, we're prepared to share some of our technology with you. Not everything, not immediately, but enough to significantly upgrade your defensive capabilities. In exchange, we'd like access to your industrial capacity, your resources, and your knowledge of this galaxy. We need to build a unified defense before the Devourers arrive. I sat back, his mind racing. What the humans were proposing was unprecedented. The Empire had encountered hundreds of species but none like this. None that came as equals or possibly even superiors, offering partnership rather than demanding submission or fleeing in fear. This is a decision beyond my authority, he said finally. I'll need to present your proposal to the High Council, but I can tell you that after witnessing what your ship did to the fleet, I believe the Empire would be foolish to refuse your offer. We understand, said. We're prepared to wait. In the meantime, perhaps we could offer a gesture of good faith. We have medical technology that might interest you, and our scientists would be fascinated to exchange information with yours. There's one more thing, Commander Grant added. The Vengeance isn't alone. We have a small fleet in the intergalactic void waiting for our signal. Once we establish formal relations, we can bring them in. 3 more warships like ours, plus support vessels and several thousand personnel ready to assist in whatever way necessary. I felt his certainty crystallize. I'll send a priority transmission to the High Council immediately. Captain, I believe this is the beginning of something extraordinary. 2 galaxies working together against a common threat. It's unprecedented. Smiled an expression that the translator software indicated meant pleasure or agreement. Admiral, humans have a saying, desperate times call for desperate measures, and another one, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I think both apply here. Over the next several hours, the humans and the Empire's officers exchanged information, cultural context, and technological specifications. Dr. Mitchell spent 3 hours in excited conversation with In, discussing everything from quantum mechanics to the nature of consciousness. Hayes gave a presentation on human weapons systems that left the Empire's tactical officers both impressed and slightly terrified. Commander Grant discussed logistics and fleet coordination with the Empire's military planners. And throughout it all, Admiral A watched and listened, forming his recommendation to the High Council. The humans were powerful, yes, but they were also principled. They could have simply announced their presence and demanded the Empire's submission. Instead, they offered partnership, warned of a greater threat, and demonstrated their capabilities only when necessary. As the meeting wound down and the humans prepared to return to the Vengeance, pulled aside. "Admiral, there's something else you should know. The Devourers aren't mindless machines. They're intelligent, adaptive, and they've destroyed civilizations far older than either of ours. Stopping them will require everything we have, and even then, success isn't guaranteed. But humanity didn't cross the intergalactic void just to watch another galaxy fall. We're here to fight, and we're here to win." I looked at the human captain, seeing the determination in his eyes. "Captain, I've been a military officer for 60 cycles. I've seen wars, rebellions, and conflicts that span star systems, but I've never seen anything like what you showed us today. The Empire will accept your offer. We'll fight together and perhaps we'll both survive what's coming." Extended his hand again, and this time I gripped it firmly. "To survival, then, and to the future." "To the future," I agreed. As the humans departed and the airlock sealed behind them, the Admiral turned to his gathered staff. "Contact the High Council immediately, tell them everything, and prepare a full report on human capabilities. We need to understand exactly what we're dealing with." "Sir," In said quietly, "there's something that's been bothering me. The humans said they've only had FTL travel for 47 years. That's nothing. Some species take centuries to develop beyond their home star system, yet they've achieved technological superiority in almost every field we tested. How is that possible?" I was silent for a moment, thinking back to the conversation, to the hints the humans had dropped about their violent history, their constant warfare, their drive to survive and adapt. "I think," he said slowly, "it's because humans are a species forged in fire. They didn't have the luxury of slow, peaceful development. They fought and struggled and innovated because they had to. And now they've brought all that terrible experience to the stars." He paused, watching the Vengeance through the viewport, its sleek form a testament to human ingenuity and military prowess. "We should be grateful they're offering to fight with us rather than against us." 3 days later, the Galactic High Council formally accepted humanity's offer of alliance. The news spread through the Empire like wildfire. Unknown species from another galaxy, bearing warnings of an existential threat and offering advanced technology in exchange for cooperation. The Vengeance remained at the Meridian Gate, becoming the most visited ship in the sector as scientists, military officers, and diplomats from across the Empire came to study the humans and their vessel. Captain and his crew handled the attention with patience and professionalism, answering questions and forming relationships that would prove crucial in the months to come. The human fleet arrived 2 weeks later, emerging from the intergalactic void in a display of technological might that left even the most skeptical Empire officials convinced. 3 more warships, each as formidable as the Vengeance, plus transport vessels, construction ships, and mobile shipyards ready to begin building a joint defense force. Admiral A stood on the bridge of the Dominion, watching the human fleet take up position alongside the Empire's own vessels. It was a sight no one had imagined possible just months before. 2 civilizations from 2 different galaxies, united against a common threat. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "Captain is requesting permission to begin joint tactical exercises. He says if we're going to fight the Devourers together, we need to learn to work as one fleet." allowed himself a rare smile. Permission granted, and contact Fleet Command. Tell them to prepare for a major shift in our military doctrine. We're about to learn how humans fight wars, and something tells me it's going to be quite an education. As the combined Human Empire fleet began its first coordinated maneuvers, a new chapter opened in galactic history. The Devourers were coming, yes, but now they would face not one galaxy divided, but two galaxies united. And at the forefront of this alliance stood the Vengeance and ships like her, proof that sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places, carried by a species that refused to accept defeat. The Galactic Empire had panicked when an unknown human warship appeared in their space. Now, they had hope, and in the dark times ahead, hope would prove to be humanity's greatest gift of all.